Hello everyone, it's Caolan from Cagefront here. Welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. We have a good fight night ahead of us. We have a UFC fight night, Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady in the O2, and finally not in that damn Apex. And in this card, it is not only out of the Apex, it's actually just a stacked card that deserves a crowd, because we are starting off with Guram Kutateladze and Kaue Fernandes, which I will get into very soon, which is a fantastic fight at lightweight. Then when we go through the card, I mean, we have got guys like Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg for the co-main event. We got guys like Morgan Charrier and Nate Wood coming through. We got Kavanagh as a very exciting prospect, and we've also obviously got Leon Edwards and Sean Brady to top it all off. So I'm going to be predicting and breaking down every single fight on this card, as well as giving you guys my picks for the fight card awards. So without further ado, let's get into the first fight of Guram Kutateladze versus Kaue Fernandes. And as I said in the intro, this is a very strong fight to kick off the card, because both of these guys are very high level, accurate kickboxers. I mean, Guram has only fought high level competition like Gamrot, Ismagulov, and dangerous competition as well like Elvis Brenner, and he's literally just beaten Jordan Vucenic, who is fighting higher up the card, who is going to be promising in his matchup too. And then Kaue, I mean, he hasn't had the same exact success, and hasn't fought as good of opponents, but he fought Muhammad Yahya and absolutely floored him in his last fight, and he has laser striking. Very, very accurate, about 70 to 75% strike accuracy, and he's got the KO power, and he's just very, very technical as well. Good, whether it's at kickboxing range, and he's actually good in the clinch range as well. And then we've got Kutateladze, who is good in that boxing range. Very explosive, very, very fast hands, which Jordan Vucenic was definitely struggling with. But I will say with Kaue Fernandes, he's probably got the most dangerous actual technique in this fight. The left high kick, very, very dangerous, quite untelegraphed, and can land it very easily. He's done that on the regional scene, and it is, yeah, it's vicious. So there's definitely that there. And then Guram, the strike speed is on his side, especially in the boxing exchanges. And he also has the ability to get the fight to the ground as well. And he's also got pretty decent cardio, as long as he's not getting absolutely smacked to the body by like Elvis Brenner. Then he's actually got pretty good cardio and can keep a very, very strong pace. And I do think when it comes to that wrestling department in the later rounds, I think after having such a fast-paced fight back and forth, I want to be taking the guy with more tools, but I will say the odds that are split here, I think, are a bit ridiculous. I don't think Kaue Fernandes should be anywhere near a 5-1 underdog. He should possibly be like a 2 to maybe a 3-1, but not this far apart. He is dangerous with the kickboxing, but you can't ignore Guram's, obviously, his experience. I mean, his experience and his boxing pedigree as well is really, really good, and he's better in that boxing range than Kaue is. And also a bit of a shaky part about Kaue Fernandes's game is he's actually got somewhat decent takedown defense, but when it gets to the ground, he's not the greatest, because Jakazi, when he fought him in his debut, got like 6 to 8 minutes of control time on him, and he couldn't do much about it. And with Guram's ability to explode on the feet, as well as explode into takedowns, I'm going to be taking him overall by a unanimous decision. I think it's going to be a 29-28. I think Kaue Fernandes can do very good in that second round. Just swing that through after Guram just explodes in that first round. And yeah, because Kaue's never been taken out before. Obviously, never KO'd, never submitted. He's quite a controlled fighter, but Guram, he's got more tools, he's got more experience, and I think that ability, if he uses it, especially with those takedowns, he can get this one done. Moving up to Caolan Loughran versus Nathan Fletcher. So the blockhead, Caolan Loughran, still somehow stays in the UFC after going 1-2 in the UFC. And then Taylor Lapulus, who beat him and is 3-1 in the UFC, gets cut. Like, that is absolutely nuts. Has nothing to do with this fight, but I just wanted to put that out there, that is absolutely insane. And by that standard, Caolan Loughran shouldn't even be fighting, and he hasn't actually looked that fantastic throughout his UFC career so far. I mean, he's just been outworked pretty much everywhere by Jake Hadley and by Taylor Lapulus as well. But that's where it's a bit annoying to say this, because I think he does get it done in this matchup, because stylistically, this is just a more sound fight for him to take, because he is fighting Nathan Fletcher, who Nathan Fletcher is good at timing his takedowns, good with the wrestling, and good with his submission game, 7-0 with submissions. But on the feet, he's a little bit wild. Like, he uses like single base strikes, but lunges in very awkwardly, and is open to getting tagged, but I'm not really that confident in Caolan Loughran just being able to completely counter-strike him. The issue I have is Nathan Fletcher consistently is he going to be able to actually keep Loughran on the ground? Or is he even going to actually be able to take him down with that lower base, that lower center of gravity? Because Caolan Loughran, that's what he's going to be looking for from this matchup, because he knows that he is the better boxer. He's got the boxing base, he's got that pedigree there. And even though he struggled against the Hadleys and the Lapuluses, Nathan Fletcher does not have that same pedigree on the feet. And unless he can control Loughran for 15 minutes, then I just don't see Fletcher having the tools on the feet to win this fight. And that's where I think Caolan Loughran, he's going to be able to get this one done by a decision. I think he's just going to be able to utilize more volume over time, especially when he is stuffing those takedowns. And I do believe it's going to be a 30-27. But if he does get taken down, he is definitely in trouble. Now, he's never been finished, but Nathan Fletcher, he is a talent on the ground, that is for sure. But as I said, Caolan Loughran is just not easy to take down, and I'm not going to be riding on that, especially in the contrast of their striking. Now, moving up the card to Shauna Bannon versus Puja Tomar. So these two are basically the same in style. They both utilize a lot of front leg side kicks. Both of them are pretty decent on the front foot. I kind of like Shauna Bannon on the outside and Puja Tomar on the inside more so. And they've both got speed, that's for sure. And I mean, they've both got KOs, especially Puja Tomar on her record. But the issue is, on the other side for Puja Tomar, is her ground game. Like, they're both not ground game artists, but Puja Tomar has gaping holes in her ground game. And that has been exploited, obviously, at least 3 times from getting submitted 3 times. And she just didn't even look impressive in her debut, to be honest. She fought Hayani Dos Santos, and I think she lost that fight in her debut, to be honest. And then Shauna Bannon, I mean, look, she's got similar tools, but ultimately, she has the wrestling capabilities there that aren't great, but they're better than Puja Tomar. She's got a hip throw in there. If she can get this to the ground, I mean, she's bigger. She's also got the huge reach advantage as well. She's just got more to her game, ultimately. Like, if it's on the feet, and if she's on the outside consistently, she's going to be able to pick Puja Tomar apart. And then also when it comes to the ground game, I'm just going to be choosing Bannon anyway, because I just think I have seen more from her realistically. And look, since their styles are very close, and if Puja Tomar can actually forward pressure appropriately and cut Shauna Bannon off, then it's going to be close. And I do believe that it's going to be a Bannon split decision here. I think it's just going to be very, very close in terms of their outputs, because they do strike at a similar clip. And it just really depends on the takedown of Shauna Bannon to see if Puja Tomar has even improved on the ground. But ultimately, yeah, I think it's going to be a split decision for Bannon, just realistically, just trading off of volume. Moving up to Christian Leroy Duncan versus Andrey Pulyaev. Now, Pulyaev, probably don't know too much about him. He came through Dana White's Contender Series in an okay win. He was a plus 250 underdog, but as the underdog here, almost double that, he's not getting the underdog win here. This is just a very rough matchup to come into, in all seriousness from me. Duncan, I mean, he's fighting at home. He's had the better experience. He's more versatile. He is naturally just a bit bigger, as well as just being able to pressure more effectively, and he's better on the inside, better on the outside as well. Like, Pulyaev got pressured back really badly in his fight against Anderson. That was a very, very close fight, and if you take out Anderson, put in Christian Leroy Duncan, with the performance that Pulyaev had in that fight, I'm not liking him, to be honest. I mean, he did have pretty good body kicks, and I would say, like, he's arguably, like, the better grappler. But on the feet, which is where this is realistically going to be, because him trying to take Duncan down, I don't see it happening. Duncan's got good takedown defense. Duncan's going to be able to take him out on the feet. I mean, especially with Pulyaev, you look in that Anderson fight, he keeps his chin very high and doesn't really use a lot of lateral movement on the outside when he's getting backed up. And if Christian Leroy Duncan gets on that front foot, yeah, he's going to be taking him out, which I think, honestly, especially with Pulyaev and the way that he strikes, I mean, better grappler than striker, honestly. He just lunges into strikes very awkwardly, and if you're doing that against Duncan, I mean, I'm seeing like a head kick KO coming, or like a clean check hook within the second round, getting chinned. Moving up the card to Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin. Now, this is a huge jump up in competition for Mick Parkin. Definitely the most dangerous guy he has fought. But if he gets it done, deservedly so, he should be in the top 10. Going from 13th ranked to 8th ranked, definitely fair to say, but it's not going to be easy. Definitely not, because Marcin Tybura, granted, he's not getting any younger. He's 10 years older than Mick Parkin, but he has a wealth of experience under him. He has got KOs. He's got a submission-based game as well. Very well-rounded, even though he is definitely slowing down. But he did look great in his performance against Janata Deniz in his last fight. But what I will say is Janata Deniz, fantastic striker, but has absolutely no ground game, whereas Mick Parkin is definitely not that bad on the ground. Like, he's not as good as Tybura, but is definitely not as bad as Janata Deniz. And a big thing outside of these two is Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is Mick Parkin's main training partner, and that's going to be fantastic for Mick Parkin training for this fight, because Marcin Tybura, I mean, granted, their fight did not last long at all between him and Aspinall, but Aspinall has had a full training camp thinking about absolutely no one but Marcin Tybura at one point in time. So he's going to know a lot about Tybura, the way he moves, his mannerisms, and Mick Parkin is going to be there to feed off that. And that is a huge advantage. And when we look at Tybura slowing down, that's very bad against a guy like Mick Parkin, who is a very technically sound boxer. He's faster, he's more concise overall, and as long as he can keep that takedown defense up and not get dragged down by Tybura, especially against the cage as well, I've got to take Parkin by a decision here. I think it honestly could be close to a split decision, but I think if we're moving through the second to the third round, Parkin's pacing, I think, is just going to pay dividends very well, and he's got good body shots too. And I just think with Tybura not getting any younger, it's going to be difficult for both of them. But I think that Mick Parkin, being that guy 10 years younger, he's got a lot of momentum. He's undefeated, and he can utilize that strike volume at boxing range. Yeah, I've got to be taking him just. It's a very, very close fight, but I'm going to be taking him by the 29-28 decision. I think Tybura is going to give him some problems in the first round, just because, you know, Mick Parkin, I think he might freeze a little bit. He just hasn't fought a guy that's this experienced, but I think he can pull it through in the second and third round with the striking volume, the boxing, the accuracy as well. I think he can get it done. Now, moving up to a fun one, we have got Felipe dos Santos versus Loughran Kavanagh, and this is just an awesome prospect matchup to have. And this is definitely going to be Loughran's toughest test, without a doubt. And Felipe dos Santos, it's not the same for him, because he's fought Manel Cap, went to an absolute fantastic war with him, and he's also fought Andrey Lima. And surviving both of those guys is extremely impressive. He's a very hard guy to take out. But the issue that I do have in this matchup is Loughran Kavanagh, with the kickboxing pedigree he has, against Felipe dos Santos with the poor strike defense that he has. Not fantastic. Now, he is better on the ground, but as a lot of Brazilians do have this issue, fantastic Muay Thai, fantastic submission-based game, but they can't connect A to C, because B, being the wrestling, is not the greatest. And Loney Kavanagh has good takedown defense. He has a low center of gravity. He is just very swift, very agile. And with the takedown defense he has, in combination with the crisper striking he has, I've got to be taking him by a decision win here. I just think it's just a better stylistic matchup for him overall. He just has the better striking. He's just crisper, hits at a better clip. Dos Santos, he is a dog. He's very durable, and he does have decent striking. He can wing pretty good things. I mean, he even did it against Manel Cap, and the experience is there for him, which is going to test Kavanagh for sure, which I think is where we're going to look at a 29-28. I just think, even though Felipe Dos Santos has got the experience, the stylistic mismatch is just too much to look past in this one. So, Loney Kavanagh, I believe that he's going to get the 29-28. I think that we're probably going to look at him getting that through the first and the third round. I think first round, just the speed especially, and the accuracy like with just point fighting, I think that's going to be really good for him. And then in the third round as well, I think he picks it up a lot more when it comes to the second round, where I think Felipe Dos Santos is really good. It's just going to make it dirty, try some clinch-based exchanges, use some elbows in the clinch, use that Muay Thai up close, but it's going to be difficult to maintain that, and that's where I think through that third round he's not going to be able to. So 29-28 decision for Loney Kavanagh. Now, moving up to a very interesting prelim, we have got Jai Herbert versus Chris Padilla. Now, Jai Herbert, being an English MMA staple, he is an absolutely fantastic kickboxer, especially for his age. Just very clean kickboxing. I mean, almost knocked Ilia Toporia's bloody head off in their fight, and took a guy like Ludovic Klein to a draw, and Ludovic Klein is one of the best fighters in 155 pounds that's out of those rankings. And then he fought bloody Bedoya and beat him from bloody pillar to post as well. So this is definitely, I will say, even though I've said all those positives, definitely deserves to be a pick'em, because Padilla has looked fantastic in the UFC so far. One of the most under the radar fighters, the most underrated fighters in lightweight at the moment. He submitted James Lontop with ease and made Rongzhu's eye turn into a fucking golf ball. And that is thanks to his striking. The timing of his striking, got a perfect elbow right on that dude's eyeball, and that really shows, because Rongzhu is fantastic at just forward pressuring and making it just an absolute dogfight. But Chris Padilla is so good under pressure. But that's the thing. In this matchup, what I do like about Herbert is that he is patient. He's a patient point style kickboxer who rarely overextends. And he's got the power in his hands too, but Chris Padilla is a type of guy that wants the opposition to overextend because of the timing of his counter-striking, and that's where it's a bit of a mismatch on the feet for Padilla, because Jai Herbert, I don't believe, is going to be playing into those games. He's not that type of striker, not that aggressive. And Padilla, defensively sound when it comes to just striking exchanges. He is pretty good, underrated there, but I will say he definitely does have the ground game advantage. And if he gets it to the ground, then I think Jai Herbert is in trouble for sure. He's very good at just cinching in rear naked chokes, hooks or no hooks. It's very impressive. But I just can't get past that striking style, that striking difference in terms of what Padilla wants and what Herbert is not going to give him. And when it comes to that, I'm going to be looking at a 29-28 decision for Jai Herbert. I just think that, look, when it comes to Padilla, he can land like the singular harder shots, but Jai Herbert's better at putting combinations together. And I just don't think Padilla has enough in his striking arsenal to overtake that pure volume of Herbert to steal this fight. Only way it happens if he gets Jai Herbert to the ground and submits him. Herbert is not an easy guy to get to the ground anyway. So unless Herbert makes a mistake, I think he's going to be able to take this one by a 29-28 decision. I think it's probably going to be his in the first and second, and then Padilla just starts pulling things out in the third round. So yeah, Jai Herbert, he's going to be doing it in his home country. Looking at our main card, and we have a banger for the first fight on the main card, Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charrier. Now, these are two of, the best outside of the rankings at 145 pounds. They are fantastic. Both of them do have a similar caliber of experience. Now, Nate Wood, he is like more of just a natural striker, and I will say like he's just like clean and composed on the feet, and he's actually just improved his defensive transitions and get-ups on the ground, which is important in this matchup because Morgan Charrier, I will say, is just a bit better at getting the fight to the ground. But then we have Charrier, who realistically, this guy should be on a 6-fight win streak at the moment. I mean, I do think that he beat Chepe Mariscal, and beating Chepe Mariscal at the moment is not easy. That guy is flying at the moment, looking absolutely fantastic, and that just really shows the caliber of fighter that Morgan Charrier is, because he busted up Chepe's face a fair bit. And I mean, Charrier, 12-0 with KOs. The guy has got power. He's got power, but coming into the UFC, it's not only power. I mean, he is very well-rounded. He's got the submission-based game, very, very nicely improved wrestling, good on his takedown offense, good at timing his takedowns, but just very good at striking when it comes to getting the body, tagging that body. He is dangerous. Now, he is more accurate overall. I mean, Nate Wood, he is like the higher output fighter, but Charrier, I mean, honestly, with the strike accuracy he has in comparison to that output, it's just more dangerous, and he does just mix up the game a bit better. I mean, like, the ability for him to get takedowns, I mean, he like doubles the amount of takedowns that Nathaniel Wood gets within a fight, and that's going to be a big decider in this one. If whoever can mix up the game very well is going to get this done. And because both of these guys are very high-level kickboxers, but realistically, I mean, Nate Wood on the other side, I just don't see him being able to mix it up as good as Charrier is going to be able to. Because, I mean, Charrier, he's got an 83% takedown defense and 12-0 with KOs. And he just looks like, I just think he looks a bit better at kickboxing range in recent times. Just looks cleaner. And look, Nate's got like quicker boxing combinations, but Charrier, ultimately, I think he's just got more tools. I think he's more solidified as that top 15 fighter. And also time frames as well. Like, obviously, this being fought in the UK, weird time zones and everything. Morgan Charrier is from France. I mean, it's not going to be any different for time zones for him. Barely any different. So that's not going to apply here. And ultimately, yeah, unless Nate Wood can really just outland him with the volume, yeah, I just think Charrier is going to be able to get this one done. I think it's going to be a decision. I think it's going to be a decision, high output, lot more wrestling in this fight. But there could, if he gets the striking off continuously, there definitely could be a KO against Nate Wood within the second to the third round. Now, moving up the card to Chris Duncan versus Jordan Vucenic. Now, Chris Duncan, he has had a pretty good start in the UFC. I mean, he's gone 4-1, including his Dana White's Contender Series fight, where he had a fantastic comeback against Charlie Campbell, which he just definitely showed his heart in, and he's got the power in his hands. And I mean, he covers distance pretty well. He's a pretty aggressive fighter, and I mean, he does have the reach disadvantage here, but he's going to be able to nullify that if he gets on the front foot very well. And I will say, I mean, he's got pretty good leg kicks as well, good leg kicks, and he's good at being able to set up his shots well. I mean, he is aggressive, but he is also methodical at the same time. But then we got Vucenic on the other side, or Vucenic, whichever way you want to say it. He is a very just tidy, well-rounded fighter. He does not overextend, and he uses his striking to set up the offensive wrestling threat very well and hunt for the submission. He's 6-0 with submissions, and especially on the feet, good strike defense, decent counter striking as well. He's just a very composed, methodical fighter, more methodical than Duncan. And fighting a guy like Guram Kutateladze in his last fight for his debut, not an easy thing to do by any means. And I mean, literally, if he didn't get outworked by that pure pace of Guram, he would have won that fight. He was looking good early on. And Duncan, he's got the power, but he doesn't have that same work rate, just absolute explosivity that Guram has. And this is going to be a lot slower pace than that. And I think Vucenic is going to thrive in that slower pace. He's going to be able to work Duncan on the feet. He can get the takedowns just a lot easier, I think, as well, especially with Duncan being more so aggressive and trying to really push the pace in the fight. But yeah, I just don't see Chris Duncan being able to outwork Vucenic in any of the departments here realistically, and I think it's going to be a submission here. I think that Vucenic, honestly, he's going to be able to get Chris Duncan to the ground off overextending, and I think Duncan's going to have to really pressure, and it's going to lead to that mistake because Vucenic is just better at that kickboxing range. Very, very good with his straight strikes, good with the jab, good with the two, and that's where I think he's going to be able to get it to the ground, and he's either going to be able to hunt a guillotine or a rear naked choke in this one, and if not, I honestly think it'll be a 30-27 decision. Now, moving up to Molly the Can versus Alexia Thanara. Now, I don't know why they keep putting Molly McCann on the main card. Like, yes, she trains with Patty. She's had her moments with the spinning elbows. Then she's gone and run around in the octagon with a belt. And from there, she's lost like a million fights and she just cursed herself. Like, honestly, just super cringe, and I just don't understand the reasoning behind putting her on the main card. She's not going to get into the rankings. Like, she's just not good enough, and she's jumped down to strawweight to try and change that from flyweight. She's getting minced there, and she's just gotten minced by Bruna Brazil, like absolutely destroyed by her, and now she's coming into this fight against Alexia Thanara, who is a very promising prospect in strawweight. Very, very nice outside low kicks that she just absolutely brutally throws. And she's going to be stronger than Molly McCann. She's also got a submission threat, which Molly McCann absolutely loathes because she's been submitted 3 times. And I mean, Alexia, look, she's not super technical with the hands, but she's strong. She's got good takedowns, and I mean, she could catch Molly anyway. She swings for the fences like very heavily, and she's got good pressure as the fight goes on, where we know with Molly McCann, she starts to slow down. And this weight cut, I mean, it's not going to be doing her any favors. And funnily enough, both of these two have literally lost to Bruna Brazil, and granted, Molly McCann somehow got to a decision and Thanara got submitted, but since being submitted by Bruna Brazil, Alexia Thanara has looked fantastic. And Molly McCann, the only way she's winning this fight is by keeping it in boxing range, keeping it on the feet, and consistently utilizing the boxing, because she is more technical on the feet, but Thanara has a 5-inch reach advantage and just literally uses straight shots. Like, it's really hard to find positives for Molly McCann, even in this matchup. I mean, regardless of a lot of them anyway. She's got the 5-inch reach disadvantage. She's not as strong. She will get out grappled and will get taken down. And that's where I think Thanara, I mean, comfortably, I think that she is going to find a submission win here within the first 2 rounds. Too strong. I mean, very aggressive, very hungry, and yeah, submissions there. Molly McCann's kryptonite. She's done. Moving up the card to Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland. Very, very interesting random matchup to get. I mean, Kevin Holland is fighting, every next Saturday, but bringing Gunnar Nelson back in on pretty much exactly 2 years off, gonna be very interesting, because Kevin Holland, I mean, he's always on these like wild kind of fights. He's always very wild on the betting side of things as well. And obviously he hasn't looked fantastic at the moment. He's gone against Roman Dolidze, busted his rib out of the first round in that one. And then RDR just absolutely smoked him at UFC 311 and submitted him. And he's coming back down to welterweight for the 18,000th time. And him coming into welterweight doesn't necessarily make him better. I mean, he's kind of the same in both divisions, to be honest. And looking at Gunnar Nelson coming into this, Gunnar's fought some great opposition. I mean, he took Leon Edwards to a split decision, and he's also dealt with, he has dealt with technical kickboxers, which Kevin Holland is nowhere near as technical, but he does have the power. But I mean, Gunnar Nelson is a very difficult, tricky guy to go up against to even land a shot on, because granted, he has a humongous reach disadvantage, but it's not that bad because he uses a bladed stance where he's very good at lunging in and timing his shots to cut off that distance. And ultimately, the big elephant in the room is going to be the submission arsenal. I mean, Gunnar Nelson is absolutely ridiculously dangerous when it comes to the ground game. And Kevin Holland, at points, decent with the takedown defense, but is he going to be able to stop the takedowns for 15 minutes against Gunnar Nelson, who actually is decent at takedowns? and is just a freak on the ground? I don't think so. It's either Kevin Holland is taking Gunnar Nelson out in the first round, or Kevin Holland is getting dragged around like crazy and then eventually submitted. I think that that's just what we're going to get here. And I think you know what I'm leading to. I think Gunnar Nelson is going to come back after 2 years off. Within that 15 minutes, I think he's going to be able to find the rear naked choke within the first or second round for a great comeback after 2 years off. And into our co-main event, we got Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. Now, Carlos Ulberg is surging right now. He is looking fantastic. He's very hungry. He's pretty much an arm's length of getting the title, especially if he beats Jan. But Jan is easily his toughest test, because no matter how bloody old this guy gets, he's always going to be a threat in some way, shape, or form. And looking at Ulberg, very similar in style to Alex Pereira, with the kickboxing pedigree, using the lead left hook and using the leg kicks as well. Very, very similar, which Jan Blachowicz did find success against Alex Pereira, and I think that fight was a draw. But looking at Carlos Ulberg, that this, with his style, the thing that is different to Alex Pereira is that he's better with his movement overall, especially on the outside with lateral movement. I mean, he's quicker than Jan for sure, and has the ability to get in and out on a linear line very, very well. And that's where Jan Blachowicz is going to be the most dangerous when Ulberg is right in front of him. Like, if they're trading at boxing range, like, Ulberg is going to be in some trouble for sure. Granted, Ulberg's fast, but Jan, very, very good at countering off of the tight striking guard that he has. Like, people are just, like, fighters are just trying to pummel through his guard, and then he just counters with that bloody Polish power and takes them out. That's what he's very good at, because they, after throwing the combination, they're not really moving off the line. And especially with fighters this heavy, never really do move off the line. But Ulberg is a guy that does that pretty consistently. And look, if he doesn't point fight and he just stays in the pocket, Jan's going to win this fight. He's going to win this fight, and he's probably going to actually chin Carlos Ulberg, to be honest. But I think with Ulberg, just the style that he pretty much has always shown, being that much younger as well, 8 years younger, being hungry, being faster, being able to use counter-striking effectively himself, and also having a nice jab. I just think the speed and the volume overall, I mean, 7 strikes, significant strikes landed per minute on average for him is ridiculous. And to top it all off, I think Ulberg's just got the takedown defense in there to not let Jan take him down. And unless Jan just pressures relentlessly, cuts him off and chins him, I think this is Ulberg's fight to take. But yeah, good luck taking Blachowicz out by KO TKO. Ulberg's got to land completely flush, and I just never like taking someone beating Jan by any kind of finish. Jan's just so good defensively, and that's where I think Ulberg, it's gonna be tough, especially I think through that first round where Jan's gonna be fresh. I think Ulberg's gonna be taking the 29-28 decision in this one. Now, moving on to our main event, we've got Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady, and this is just a very interesting fight to see, because obviously Leon was supposed to fight JDM before Brady came in, and Brady is now kind of on short-ish notice, which really won't affect his game, to be honest, because Brady, I mean, wrestling base, got a lot of stamina. I mean, you know, looked incredible against Gilbert Burns with that relentless cage pressure he showed, and as well as that, their transitions to compete on the ground with Gilbert Burns, very, very impressive. Because Gilbert, look, he may be old, but no matter how old he is, he's never going to be a joke on the ground. And Brady pretty much neutralized him on the ground, like, looked fantastic. And Brady's got an underrated submission game there as well, 5-0 with submissions, and absolutely no cardio concerns there. So all super positive for Sean Brady, and in a sense can understand why he is a favorite. However, I do believe ultimately that Leon Edwards is just being disrespected. I mean, it should be honestly like more so a pick'em, but I understand because Sean Brady, he's got that consistency, and the way that Leon has gone against Belal, that is where the plus 130 dog is coming in. I mean, it's heavily based off his UK performance against Belal, and obviously Belal having that similar style in terms of that wrestling and that relentless pressure. But the thing that I really want to state here is, we look at Belal, And, you know, Belal was able to get Leon Edwards down at times pretty well. And can Brady do the same thing? I think he possibly can, for sure. He's a great wrestler. But if Belal on the other side can piece up Brady on the feet, can Leon Edwards? Yes. Because Leon has been absolutely well aware that he's been fighting on this card for a while, so there should not be any time zone issues for him, because I ultimately do believe Leon at UFC 304 against Belal was not the prime Leon. I mean, I do think that that time played a big factor into him, because the way that clock worked was for US fighters, and Belal is a US fighter. He was fresh. Leon got screwed in his own country, realistically. Not an excuse. I just don't think Leon was at his ultimate best. And beforehand, obviously, Belal improved fantastically well, but Leon in that first fight was absolutely piecing the shit out of him. He was destroying him. And I do think in that 304 fight, I think Belal was being underestimated by Leon. I think Leon was underestimating him to a certain extent. And that's where Leon, hopefully, he has learned. He cannot underestimate Sean Brady, because, you know, Sean Brady, is this guy that got taken out by Belal Muhammad against the cage. Belal doesn't knock out anyone, and he's done it to Sean Brady, so that is a horrific loss. But Sean Brady, mentally, he's switched on. He's there. He does not underestimate any fighter he goes up against. But that being said, I think unless Sean Brady can seriously swallow Leon Edwards, I just don't see him winning this fight. And Leon, I mean, the guy has very good takedown defense, very good at controlling the wrist against the cage. He's shown it against Usman. I think he won that third fight actually fairly well, to be honest. A lot of people would probably disagree, but I think he did look good in that one. And he's got the kickboxing pedigree ultimately to outstrike Brady, without a doubt. He's got more tools there. He just needs the comfortability and to be fresh to utilize it. And if he can, I think that he's going to be able to do some work in this fight. Now, I have Brady having a very strong second round, and possibly, honestly, a first round as well, but I think that Brady is going to be able to just apply a consistent amount of pressure through that second round. I think Leon and Brady do get their reads in that first round, just to see how they go. If Brady gets the takedown, then it's his round to take for sure, because Leon's not going to want to absolutely just gas trying to get back up. And that's where I think if they're really point fighting, it's going to be a sway round, but I think Leon could possibly edge that first round. And then the second round, I think that's where Sean Brady really turns up the heat. I think he really turns up the heat with the wrestling, even if he doesn't get Leon down, which I do think he can, but I don't think he can control him for that long. And I do think he gets Leon down in that second round and takes that round away from him. And he shows more urgency as well through that third round to get him down again and just pressure him against the cage. But that's where I think Leon will really inject that urgency in the championship rounds. Utilize the kickboxing pedigree he has. I mean, he's got the reach advantage in both legs and his arms too, 3 inches of reach in both, which is crucial in a matchup like this, because Sean Brady isn't like the most defensively sound when it comes to striking, and you need that against a laser point style fighter like Leon Edwards. And that's where I think Brady is going to take rounds 2 and 3, and then I think Leon's going to swing the first round, and then it's going to be rounds 4 and 5 for him to get that decision win. But granted, if Leon's getting ragdolled, do not be surprised if Brady gets a submission. If Leon is completely nullifying the wrestling, do not be surprised if Leon knocks Sean Brady out. But I think it's honestly very close, and the odds do suggest that. I think it should be more though of a pick'em though, but I'm going to be taking Leon Edwards on underdog money here. Now, moving on to the fight card awards and kicking it off with fight of the night, got to give it to Lonnie Kavanagh versus Felipe dos Santos. I just think that this is going to be a very fun, entertaining prospect fight, very high pace. Felipe dos Santos, he just loves a war. He's going to bring it to Lonnie Kavanagh. I just do think that Lonnie Kavanagh does have those consistent tools, as well as the takedown defense, to really just nullify the game of dos Santos to an extent and take that fight by a grueling decision. Now, performance of the night, I got to go with Alexia Thanara. I just think that Molly McCann, she just does not really have an out to win that fight unless it's consistent 3-round boxing range, which is just too much to ask for from Molly McCann, because especially cutting down to strawweight, I mean, I just don't think she's going to be able to have that consistent gas tank, because Thanara, I mean, after seeing the Bruna Brazil fight, she's going to be targeting that body like fucking crazy. So, and aside from that, I mean, Alexia Thanara, she's stronger. I mean, she can take Molly the can down, and if she can take her down, she's gonna get that submission. Alexia Thanara, trust me, she's a prospect, and she's got a lot of avenues to win this fight. Now, moving on to fighter to watch, I gotta give it to Jordan Vucenic. I just think that this guy, honestly, coming through the regional scene, he did have it pretty tough in his UFC debut, going against Guram Kutateladze, who's fought very good UFC caliber opposition before Vucenic, and Vucenic is a well-rounded guy. Very well-rounded, very composed, good with his striking, very nice straight shots. He's got the submission-based game as well. Good offensively, good defensively. Looked fantastic on Cage Warriors through the regional scene. Trust me, you probably don't know a lot about him now, but he is promising, and he's really going to be able to show his tools against Chris Duncan in his fight. Now, looking at the finish of the night, I got to give it to Christian Leroy Duncan. I think it's just a golden opportunity for him against Pulyaev to seriously just absolutely work that forward pressure striking. I just think that Pulyaev just backs up a little too much, and this is the wrong opponent you want to be doing that against. I think Duncan just has the tools there, has the experience, and this is just a bad debut for Pulyaev realistically. Now, I hope you enjoyed today's predictions and breakdown video, and I also hope you enjoy the card. Now, if you want to see more MMA-based content, definitely just check out the video on the screen, and please like, comment, subscribe. Goes a long way for the channel, and I will hope to catch you in the next one.